What can a power builder who can deadlift over 600 pounds and squat almost 500 pounds while still keeping a six-pack set of abs teach you about being lean and getting strong? Let's find out. Today I'm interviewing Jordan Sharaf. Jordan is a power builder and a good friend. So Jordan, what is power building?
Powerbuilding, so hence the name, is just a mixture of both powerlifting and bodybuilding. So bodybuilding, if I'll go into depth, is just basically just hypertrophy training. So what that focuses on is basically just wanting to build as much muscle as possible. So that's typically what like these competitors train as. They don't really care so much as like strength training. So at the end of the day, it's just trying to pack on as much muscle as possible. Powerlifting, on the other hand, is just focusing on strength and focusing on the three main movements, which are the three main compound movements, which are squat, bench, and deadlift. So just powerlifting is just trying to maximize those three lifts and doing that by any means necessary. Very little emphasis on like hypertrophy, like bodybuilding training. There's a little bit that can be incorporated in and out of there, but not really to any extent toward bodybuilding trainers or bodybuilders usually train as.
The four main topics I'd like to cover with you today, plus anything else you think you can help the viewers of this video, is workouts, weightlifting, the cardio that you do, nutrition, what you eat, recovery. Most people don't know how important recovery is to the ability to work out, build muscle, lose fat. And finally, supplements, which will probably be the path most people are looking forward to hearing about. All right, so let's start with workouts. What's a typical week like for you regarding lifting, during power building?
When it comes to power building, which I think is the best training style in my opinion, because you kind of get the best of both worlds. I typically like a push-pull legs split, which well, in my case, a legs push-pull split. I think that's the best way to format it. So Monday is legs, so that's primarily just focusing on like what the compound lift for that day would be a squat. Pull would be the compound lift for that would be deadlift, and then push would be a bench press, and then repeat, and then I'll take one day off, so like Sunday. So what that looks like basically for whatever given day it is, so like for say legs, I would come in, have my program, and then usually, so what I found works best for me is to work something like a 5-3-1 split. So what that is basically is I'll come in and then have a top set, which is my all-out like heaviest set, for either sets of 5 or one set of 5, one set of 3, or one set of 1 rep. So I'll do that for a top set and then do back off sets, say for like 4 sets of 8, 4x4, 5x5. So things like that. That's more like for volume. So I'll do that for my compound lifts, which by the time that's done, it's probably like almost like an hour into the workout. So you can tell it's definitely taxing, to say the least.
Yes.
So after that, I'll move into my accessories. So that's where the bodybuilding parts of the equation comes in. So that's just like basically any exercise that I feel I want to do, or anything based on my preference and what I like, that I could just like basically just get as much blood flow into the muscle as possible.
When you said accessorize, just to interject, just so the viewers understand, say, for example, you did legs. That was your big lift. So you did squats. So after your hour of destroying your legs, what would be your accessory movements for your legs, for example, that the typical person would find in their gym?
Right. So after a squat or whatever the compound lift for the day was, I'll go into like a lighter form of like a press variation. So like a leg press, a hack squat, something like that. And then like leg extensions, leg curls, or any other kind of minute exercises that I want to focus on, say like a glute exercise. And that's probably that. And then like maybe like one other exercise, and then I'll call it. By that time it's been already like 2 hours at the gym. So you'll definitely feel fatigued after that workout. So yeah, that's
so for example, I know. So some people might be thinking, oh, wow, so to look like this guy, I got to spend 2 hours in the gym. But that's not exactly accurate. For example, your typical beginner or some guy or lady has been in the gym for 5 years and they've plateaued because they don't know any of the things that you just talked about, to be honest. So, for example, how could somebody like that, again, sticking with legs, assuming they know how to squat properly, how could they do what you just described in 1 hour or an hour and a half? Like, what would you condensed, just from practical, because you got to think the typical person really has no clue about what you just described.
Right. Yeah, I would definitely assume that they would, take take the time prior to kind of really understand the fundamentals about how to squat and all the basics really that they would need. And then from there, get a program, have a foundation of what you're going to do, have a plan. That's probably the most important part. And then go off of that. So, once you have that, I think you're golden really. But, obviously form is everything. So if you don't have good form, I would, when I was first started training, I would really I literally 10 pounds was heavy to me. So that took so much time to even get past that. And my legs was arguably one of my weakest muscle groups. So it took a long time for me to actually progress. So, but I really took the time to really read up, watch a ton of YouTube videos on how to actually squat, all the mechanics, all the fundamentals on how to really progress. And then I really did research on it's really easy for people, especially younger kids, to kind of get lost in lost in the sauce, basically.
Yes.
Seeing all these different programs, buy my program, buy my this.
Yeah.
And they really, from what I think would be the best option, just pick one thing, stick to it for X amount of months, maybe, or 6 months probably. If you don't like it, change things up in there. If you do like it, stick with it. You're gonna see progress no matter what. Especially if you're new. That's really important for sure. Yeah, I hope that answered the question.
That's a great answer, because consistency is the number one thing. Even if you had an okay program, but you did it for a year, you will look different. You will be stronger. Because, I think that's what holds a lot of people back. It held me back over the years. I'd start, stop, switch, keep switching to the new flavor. Didn't do it long enough to do anything.
Yeah, consistency is definitely the best thing to keep in mind for sure.
From a practical point of view, how do you plan your day to make sure you actually end up at the gym? Because I think your setup is what, 5 days, 6 days a week?
6 days a week.
6 days a week. Let's say somebody's trying to even go 4 days or 6 days, right? What are some simple practical things that you do? Maybe something you did the night before. Do you have a gym bag? Do you pack it before? Just real practical, simple things that you probably take for granted at this point.
Yeah. So I think it's important I think it's relative to the person and their lifestyle and maybe what their job is. So if their job kind of hinders how many days a week they can actually go to the gym, that's okay. As long as it's just consistent. You can go to the gym 3 days a week and you can make progress. It's just a matter of tailoring the workouts to make it the most optimal way for your life kind of. So for me, I started when I was back in high school, doing a typical bro split, one muscle a day, or one muscle a day, every day, no days off. But obviously any person that's new to the gym will grow just by walking past the gym, basically. Anything new to them. Everything's new to them. So you're gonna grow regardless. You could do you could tailor a program, say do an upper body, lower body split. So Monday you'll do upper body, Wednesday you do lower body, and then Friday you do upper body again, and then the next week you'll do lower body. So you start with lower body and then do upper body in the middle of the week, and then et cetera, and then you keep switching off that. That is totally fine, and people will make progress doing that, even advanced lifters even. So I definitely recommend that for someone who maybe doesn't have the time to go every single day. Or for me, I've been doing this almost a decade now, so it's kind of second nature for me to go to the gym. If I don't go to the gym one day, it's or when I'm supposed to go to the gym, at least something's off. I should be doing something.
Yes.
But it's just a matter of tailoring your program to your life, and at the end of the day, how you want to enjoy it, basically. If you don't enjoy how you're working out, then you're not going to stay consistent with it. So ultimately you want to be enjoying the training session.
No, that's a great point. And not to deviate, but when you said, for example, splitting the body in two, you said upper body one day. When you say upper body, what does that mean exactly? What are the body parts, and what's an example of an exercise?
So upper body and lower body splits are a little bit more general in that if you're starting with an upper body day, that's basically arms, chest, back, everything that basically is upper body. So that would just be that'll be a pretty intense day, especially if you're doing only 3 days a week. But that's given, because if you only have time to go to the gym 3 days a week, you want to make sure you're getting the most amount of volume possible on those days that you actually do go. So that would if you probably want to stay, you can get strong doing that. Yeah, for sure. It's just a little bit harder because, you know, you're focusing on so many different muscle groups. But you could start with like one day, for instance, if you're doing upper body, you could start with, you know, a bench, and then maybe like a weighted pull up, like a row, trying to think, like a shoulder press, very like general, like compound movements that you can do to kind of incorporate as many muscles as possible and get a good workout from it too. And then probably like a little bit of like little accessories here and there, like chest flies, you know, seated row or something little to kind of like the icing on the cake. But
would you do things like I don't know, barbell curl or tricep push downs or something like that?
You can definitely incorporate however you see fit. You know, if you like barbell curls, by all means, like throw it in. I would try to do those like little exercises that require like not as much energy towards the end. So you know, you're not as taxed by the time. So when you do like a compound lift, like a shoulder press or like a bench press, that should be done first. Like I should have said that before, just because like you want, like when you come to the gym to do like a strength exercise, you want to be fresh. You want to have like the most amount of energy possible to kind of optimize that as much as possible.
Sometimes at the gym, I've seen people, not the gyms we go to, but you'll see somebody running on the treadmill for 30 minutes to then go and lift weights. But this should be totally reversed. You have the energy to lift first. You can always run afterwards, no matter how tired your muscles are.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, doing cardio is probably not, well, 5 minutes maybe here and there before like a compound lift is definitely, I would do that. Yeah, just to like kind of get the blood flow going and just warm up before, but nothing like over like, I don't know, like 10 minutes probably.
So then I was saying also from the practical point of view, for example, again, this is going to be like somewhat simple question, but do you have a gym bag? What do you put in your gym bag? That are second nature to set yourself up for success? Is the gym maybe close to where you work, or like what are these little things that pay much attention to anymore?
Yeah. So in terms of the gym bag, I don't have too much in there. I have a resistance band, my knee sleeves, wrist wraps, straps for deadlifts. I have a massage gun in there. I have deadlift shoes, which are just like a flat soled like wrestling shoe, which I personally like. Squat shoes. That's I think that's it. Yeah.
So that's several things in there that most people don't have.
Yeah, but that's kind of tailored towards more of like the powerlifting aspect of my training.
Right.
So
But
obviously,
that's good because you have squat shoes as well, and I know you've seen it. I've seen it. People are squatting; they don't have the ankle flexibility, so their form is terrible, and they're just an accident waiting to happen to end up seeing a chiropractor. Where, like, I didn't know about really squat shoes till I met you guys. You know, I saw the shoes you were wearing. I knew the concept because before somebody had done it there, they put like a 5-pound dumbbell under my heels, and my posture just immediately better. So when I saw the shoes, I understood the concept, and I think you had the Nikes. I ended up going with those. Then knee sleeves, I'd never heard of well, no, I saw them, but I had no clue what really they did. And I remember speaking to you guys, and I ended up with it. And I made a dramatic difference where for the people watching, it helps protect your knees. It keeps them steady. I think of maybe, I don't know if this is a good analogy, in American football with the offensive linemen, they wear the knee braces to keep things structurally straight. So when you squat, it helps with your form and definitely helps protect your knees, essentially. You probably give a better answer than I.
Yeah, it definitely reinforces your motor pathways and your structure integrity of your squat. I would say like not everyone needs like a squat shoe per se. You know, there are very famous powerlifters that, you know, use a flat sole shoe, which is totally fine too. And I use flat sole shoes to start too, but I eventually migrated towards a squat shoe, and I found that it helped me a lot more. Typically, like a good rule of thumb to kind of base whether or not you need a squat shoe is just if you have ankle mobility, like if you have very poor ankle mobility. So if your ankles kind of wiggle a little bit while you're squatting, you're not very secure. I would definitely recommend a squat shoe. Okay. I noticed like as soon as when I got my squat shoes like 4 years ago, it was just like a night and day difference. I just felt like my body was just more like cemented to the ground. Basically, I wasn't going anywhere, and it definitely helped a lot. And it helps when you're not you have issues going to depth usually because it has like a little bit of an elevated heel. So it helps you get a little bit more depth. The knee sleeve definitely is a game changer for sure. I'd say it adds about like 5 pounds to your squat, in my opinion. So what that does, well, you want to make sure you get like a good knee sleeve. SBDs make a great one. You see a lot of powerlifters wearing those, or like the Mark Bell, like strong knee sleeve. That's one I use. The way you can kind of test it, it's just, you want to see if it's stiff enough. So if you hold it up and it's like, and it just flop around, it like dies down. It's just like, it's not a very good knee sleeve. But if you hold it up and it's just like completely stiff, like that's when you know it's a good knee sleeve. That's when you know it's a good knee sleeve. Yeah. So it basically just gives you a little bit more like pop out of the hole when you're squatting. So when you go down, you just a little bit more like, get like a trampoline effect. You get like more pop out of the hole and easier on the squat for sure. So those two things, I definitely saw a good change in my squat when I incorporated those. Yeah.
Gotcha. And you mentioned wrist reps.
Yeah. And my belt. I forgot my, obviously a belt is a key component. I forgot about that. Yeah. That's a given, I think.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people go wrong there. Either they get too low a quality weight belt, or they don't know to tighten it enough. They wear it like they're wearing a regular belt, but it needs to be super tight, high enough. And there are videos online about how to put on your weight belt. So you said this earlier in the interview. You spent a lot of time watching YouTube videos. You put some effort into learning, and you guys gave me great advice. Luckily, I met you guys in the gym, and you personally would watch me correct my form, et cetera, so I didn't go hurt myself again in deadlift as I did years previously. Hurt my lower back. Did you similarly get help from other people who could say, hey, tweak this, tweak that? Or did you just pretty much do it on your own, would you say?
Back when I started in high school, I was probably one of like 2 people, me and like one other person in like the entire school that actually like worked out. So I didn't like, none of my friends really worked out at all. So I was like, kind of like a lone wolf in that sense. So I kind of took it upon myself to really do the research and do some digging on like, the best training programs, the best methods here and there. And it took a lot of trial and error, but this was like years ago. I guess like now kind of like the whole like bodybuilding industry kind of took off since then. And basically like every kid in high school is working out now. So it's it's definitely a different story. But yeah, going back to your question, I definitely didn't really have anyone that like, there to like teach me and coach me. I never had a personal trainer. I kind of just like learned on my own. I definitely recommend, you don't really need someone to, coach you. I know everyone like we're like drowning in information on the internet, you can find anything. So it's just a matter of you like taking the time to actually do your digging and do your due diligence and researching on pretty much everything. So, but if you don't have the time to do that, if you don't want to do it and you just want to like have someone like coach you, like by all means, you can do that too. Just make sure they're like a reputable person and not just some like random guy on the internet that looks good and, has no certifications or anything or like to their name. So just because they look good doesn't mean that they're necessarily like a good coach, But yeah, I definitely, I did all my learning kind of on my own, and would a mentor or like a coach might have helped me when I was younger? Yeah, for sure. But, I definitely went through a lot and learned a lot since then. And, I got to where I am basically on my own. So, yeah.
Oh, very, very impressive. And you raised a good point where you said, don't assume because the person looks great that they know what they're talking about. Because there are a lot of people who look fabulous. If they could go back in time and coach themselves, they couldn't coach themselves. Somebody told them what to do, or they just got lucky, or they got great genetics, or what have you. But they don't. They can't impart knowledge.
Even the most popular like powerlifters or even bodybuilders, they all need coaches too. Like they don't do it on their own. I definitely could have benefited for someone coaching me, but I just didn't. But I'm not really a competitor. I'm not like competing in anything, so I don't really like see like I wasn't like necessary for me. But I'm sure it's helpful.
I mean, you personally helped me. I distinctly remember we started deadlifting, and I think you guys started with like just 10 pounds on each side. So nothing. And we finished the session with 135 pounds. And I remember you said it's light for me. I was like, how do you do? Because then you said, well, you're gently putting on the weight, like you're afraid to hurt the weights or something. And I always remember that because I was like, man, this is the value of having somebody who knows what the hell they're doing watching me. Because I joke with people, I would squat their death because I'm on the adult supervision, which is ironic since you're younger than me. Like everybody there is much younger than me, but I'm on the adult supervision.
Sure.
I would take text or take pictures of myself or send you the video, and you'd be like, oh yeah, you're this, you're that, tweet this, tweet that. And even when I did my PR 4 or 5, I remember that day doing a group text to you guys. And I was like, I don't remember what I did, 350 or something. And I was like, oh, eventually I'll get to 4 or 5. And you guys were like, no, man, you can do this right now. And I was like, I remember looking at the weight for
Dean.
5 minutes. Yeah. And I'm thinking, yeah, I think Dean said it. And I was like,
yeah,
damn it. So. And I took out the weight and I put 4 or 5. And when I finally lifted it up, I was like, oh, I did it. I put it down. I was like, I'm going to do it again. Lift it up a second time. It would have taken me weeks, or more likely months to have done that. But just because I could see somebody like you deadlift 600 pounds, when you see people doing crazy, impressive things around you, you see what is achievable, and it's a real thing. It's not theoretical.
It definitely helps when you're working out with people too, like especially like like-minded individuals. So, I mean, it's nice sometimes people like prefer to like work out alone, like that's fine and all. But if you really like want to like push yourself, regardless of how hard you think you push yourself, you could always like, if you work out with someone else, like they might like push you to go for an extra rep, and you're like, wow, I actually could do this. So, that's when really like a training partner comes in handy. So I definitely, recommend that. Like you said, like Dean and like a few other my friends, who I met at school, we all kind of like have the same kind of training style. And we really kind of push each other to, maximize our potential, and really, we discover things about ourselves that we never would have thought otherwise. If we hadn't, tried to like add that extra, add a 10, add a 5, you could do it. And ends up like it ended up being easy. So that's where a training partner really comes in handy for sure.
Yeah, Dean is a master motivator. Yeah, he's so naturally hype. He's like he's permanently caffeinated.
I've never met someone more hype than Dean.
Yeah. And he's very knowledgeable. So I mean, when he would tell me, "Man, you're doing great. You can do this," I was like, "Yes, I can do this. I really want to interview him because he was really good. Like you said in the text, he was the guy I was like, "Yeah, you can do this, man." And trust me, that made such a psychological difference in my head.
Oh yeah,
because before the 4 or 5 thing was just this magical number that one day I will get to. What are some of the mistakes you see people making in the gym as far as actually working out that prevents them from getting as strong as they want to become or looking the way they would like to look?
Okay, yeah. I'd say more often than not, I see like a lot of younger kids doing this. And what that is really, it's just when their ego takes over. And they go to the gym every day. They always do bench. They always hit chest every day. They always slap on more weight than they can chew.
Yeah.
And it's just you're not going to make progress trying to hit a 1 rep max every single time you go to the gym.
Yeah.
Sure, like you might look cool. You might think you look cool, like, but you're not. That's not helping anyone.
Yeah.
So really, like what I said before, like it just. Yeah, I mean, you just need to. It comes down to just having a plan, having a program, being smart, having a plan each day. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, I used to have everything in my notes. Have the program in my notes. I look at my notes. Okay, I have a 4x5. I have XYZ. Instead of just like going in there and wigging it. Like, if you're just going in every single day to the gym, having no plan at all, just winging it, like you're not going to see any progress. Because how are you going to know if you're progressing if you have like no idea what you're doing? So definitely tracking your progress and staying consistent, having a plan. Those are big things, I guess, for me.
I mean, to be honest, if nobody gets anything from this interview but that one clip, that would be worth the interview.
Yeah.
Because personally, that's probably what held me back quite a lot. I mean, in the actual working out part, because you almost never see in most regular gyms anybody with any kind of notes, whether it's their cell phone or a piece of paper. So they can't tell you what they did 3 months ago. They have no clue what they'll do 3 months in the future. They're just winging it. That's literally, they just go in and they just do some stuff. They just do some things.
Those are the people that's going to fall off. They're going to plateau. They're going to say, I'm not seeing any progress. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. They're going to go home, watch Netflix.
Yes. And then for the older people, like people in more my age group, so people said 30s, 40s, or 50s, what do you see them doing? Or are they doing the same thing, trying to lift too heavy? And do you see any difference with the genders as well?
Yeah, maybe like in terms of older people, I think it's just a lack of motivation. And this is just based on my observation. Maybe it's not necessarily like true in all of like older people per se, but it's just a lack of motivation and a lack of like effort, I would say. I don't see, well, I guess it comes down to like what their health issues are, but most people like they're able, like I think they're like they're able to do like a heavy compound lift, most people,
Right.
If they're not like crippled or anything, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely a big one. In terms of gender, I think it's just like when people just automatically assume like, oh, I'm not as strong, I can't do that, I
Mm-hmm.
can't do this. They already put set limits on themselves, like, oh, I'm not as young as you guys, I can't do that. Like,
Yes.
sure, you're like, all right, obviously, like, you're not going to be deadlifting 600 pounds,
Right.
but you can still, like, if you want to get stronger, and if that's your goal, like, you're definitely able to do that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, anything is possible if you really, like, you know, take the time, like anything, and research, and, you know, set your mind to it. So, you know, if you want to get strong, you know, have the same thing, get back to your program, make sure you're eating, and really like focus on the fundamental basics of, you know, how you want to structure your program, how do you want to train, and, you know, you'll definitely make progress. You know, getting back to it, it's just like they'll set limits on themselves. I'm talking basically, this is kind of like, I can't do like what you're doing. I'm not young, I can't do that. Like, then they just don't go to the gym. Like, I'm like,
right.
You're definitely able, they just set limits on themselves. And this is just like what I see personally, and before they even like attempt it. So they failed before they even started. At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to.
And although it's observational, I think you're 100% accurate, because whether it's been here in Florida or other places I've lived, what you just described, I've seen in every gym. And when I go on business trips, and I will usually just find a gym to go to for like a week or a couple of days, wherever I'm at, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
The older people are not going hard. You don't see them straining as hard, groaning. They're not grinding as hard. That is consistent.
They're training with their brakes on.
Yes, pretty much. And I think it's probably due to lack of knowledge. They literally think what you just said. I can't do what that guy's doing or that lady's doing because they're 22 or something. Like, no, you can do this at 48. You can do it at 58. There's people in their 60s that are stronger than most guys and women in their 20s.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's just doing what you got to do what works for you. You know, obviously you're not going to be, you know, deadlifting 600 pounds again, or squatting 800 or whatever it is, but like, you're definitely able to do these things, you know, if you set your mind to it, and you're healthy again. So that's the biggest thing, just staying healthy.
Right. So on a more funnier note, everybody's done some crazy thing in the gym and survived or not survived, as the case may be. Any funny, crazy stories, any crazy squat stories, deadlift stories? You did something that was in hindsight very stupid.
You know, I've definitely had my fair share of injuries, too many to count, but that just kind of, I mean, ask any powerlifter, really, their odds are 9 out of 10 of them are going through some injury. I can think of 2 right off the top of my head that were probably like the most like serious for me. I wouldn't say they're funny, but it's just like me injuring myself, and both of which happened while I was deadlifting. I think one, like the first one that really sticks out to me is when I was deadlifting. Well, this was actually when I was working in the summer on a summer job that I had at the time, and that required like a lot of like physical labor, like moving stuff around. So, and that I was working that like all day, and then by the time I finished my shift, it was like late at night, and then of course I go right to the gym, you know, slap on some weight, start deadlifting. Probably not the smartest thing, as I was super fatigued and tired that day. But I think I might have had like 500 pounds on the bar at the time, and then I could tell even from the start, like, I'm just not feeling it today. I feel super weak. Like, you know, go figure, from, you know, running around all day, moving stuff. And then I remember, like, clearly I lifted it up. I started like hitching it a little bit. I should have just stopped right there, but I started. That's, you know, even me, I make these mistakes. I let my ego get the way. But I started hitching, and then instantly I felt like a pop in my lower back. I'm like, oh no!
Yikes!
I drop it. I could barely even like bend down, pick up the weights.
Oh yeah!
And then I left. I must have been out for like a month after that. But yeah, I recovered.
That's good.
It took a little bit. I was good, but then the most recent one, probably like a year and a half ago, maybe. It happened when I was deadlifting. Went for a PR deadlift. I did 500 reps for 10 on deadlifts, which is a big milestone.
Give me 500 pounds for 10 reps. 500 pounds for 10 reps.
500-pound deadlift for 10 reps.
Wow.
And I did it.
Yeah.
And as soon as I finished, I probably not, I didn't feel anything during the rep, but I think it just might have been like adrenaline. Fight or flight.
Yeah.
I didn't feel anything. But as soon as I dropped the weight, I'm like, oh my God, my back hurts. I'm like, I just fell to the ground, and it must have been like the same kind of injury. But
okay,
I couldn't that was probably like the longest like recovery time. It must have been like,
yikes.
I mean, I recovered in like a couple months maybe.
Yeah.
Like, but then like after that, it wasn't like fully the same. And it's just like, even when I met you, I still like complain like, oh, I gotta wash my back. I gotta feel this.
Yes, I gotta be careful.
Some days like it'll be like a little bother me more than others, and then obviously I'll take it easy. So I'm a lot more smart now. So sometimes it takes those massive injuries to kind of like give you that wake up call to stop being an idiot. So yeah,
because I think the main things I learned there from what you said, and I'm just talking to you, Journal, and interest is you warm up carefully, you loosen everything up. You don't just go squat 300 pounds, 500 pounds. I mean, you warm up with the bar. Well, you always did that before, but I noticed you loosen up the muscle area before. You know, you mentioned earlier, like 5 minutes of cardio or something. You pedal a bike, stretching, something to loosen up that area, get blood flow in the air before you try to lift something very, very heavy.
Yeah, definitely important to warm up thoroughly before you slap on 500 pounds on the deadlift bar. That was something I definitely should have done more, in my earlier days, because that could have prevented more injury, because I used to just like, maybe just like warmed up, barely even warmed up, maybe like foam roll for like 5 seconds and then started deadlifting. I mean, like now, obviously I've learned my lesson. I warm up on the bike or like the Stairmaster, like 5 minutes. So just like light cardio. I do a little bit of like dynamic stretching. I use the massage gun to get like any adhesions out of that I might have. I feel like tight in one area, and just be like really smart about like everything before I start working out. Yeah,
it's probably a natural way to switch into recovery. So, for example, how important is recovery for you? People think you grow in the gym, you train it, you change in the gym, but it's really outside of the gym. Whether it's how important is sleep to you. You mentioned the massage gun.
Yeah, I've only been using that fairly recently. Pretty much every day, just before I start any workout, really, just to get things loose, get any adhesions, like I said, out, and just make sure everything's kind of nice and loose before I start. And also like with foam roll, too, same concept. Make sure everything's loose. In terms of recovery, sleep obviously is number one. Like you could work out as long as you want, as hard as you want. Like that doesn't matter if you're not sleeping, then you're not going to see any results. You're not going to see any progress. You're not going to grow. Same thing with eating. We could talk about that too, but sleep is definitely number one in my book in terms of recovery, and make sure you're getting good sleep. So if you can like track your sleep, that's even better. There are things like an Oura ring, which I know is a good thing. If you it tracks your sleep, you put it on your finger.
Yeah, I'm wearing one.
Oh, you have one? I want to.
Yes,
I want to get
used
one.
to have terrible sleep. Before I discovered I had sleep apnea. So I bought one in a desperate attempt, and it's definitely useful. It can definitely help. I got to do a video on that too.
Yeah, I hear a lot of great things about the Oura ring. I definitely want to get one. Yeah, that definitely helps tracking your sleep, like your HRV, things like that. Personally, I think cornerstone of like some of my like when it comes to like recovery and like lowering inflammation, I think it's just like sauna, like a consistent sauna practice. I go in the sauna. Well, we used to have a sauna, like an infrared sauna at our gym until they got rid of it. I like the infrared a lot more than like a dry sauna. I mean, both are obviously very helpful, but you definitely got to make sure you're replenishing those minerals that you lose in your sweat. So I drink a lot of I drink salt water basically right after.
Okay.
Kind of replenish that, or you can get like a nice mineral supplement like Irish moss, like I know you're a big fan of, which is good. Like they have a lot of trace minerals you can replenish after the sauna. So, but yeah, sauna. Great for lowering inflammation, great for a myriad of other different benefits. That's definitely helped me, especially if you're having an injury that you're going through. Definitely help with that, lowering inflammation, and maybe some like collagen protein or will help build up that lost tissue. Cold and hot are definitely good to incorporate. Both very good. So in the morning, I'll regularly take like a cold shower. I don't have like an ice bath.
Right.
So next best thing would be like a cold shower in the morning. Very good.
For nutrition, because that's another critical part. We had a recovery outside the gym. Like most people don't realize they're going on 4 or 5 hours of sleep and they don't know why they can't lose weight or they can't build muscle. So yes, sleep is scientifically proven. Your body's not going to change with insufficient sleep. It's just too stressed out. Similarly, you can't, I think you said this earlier, but you can't really work out a bad diet. And most people's diets, they go to the gym, they go on the treadmill or they lift weights or what have you, but they can't transform. And the root is not lack of effort in the gym, even bad effort, even on a bad program. It's the diet that's holding them back. So what's your diet like?
Yeah, so it's definitely important to gauge whether or what your goal is when it comes to, structuring a diet plan. Obviously, if you want to lose weight, you don't want to be in a caloric surplus. You want to maybe subtract maybe 500 calories from your maintenance calories. And then, assess from there if see how much weight you're losing. And then you can kind of gauge from there. And then obviously, if you want to gain weight, maybe go in a 500 calorie surplus. So kind of just little increments of whatever hundreds to kind of gauge how much you're losing, how much you're putting on. Make sure you're not losing too much or putting on, or vice versa.
Right.
But for my diet, I'm kind of sitting at my maintenance weight right now. I'm not really eating as much as I should if I wanted to gain weight. That's for sure.
Okay.
But, my priority right now is just basically to be healthy. Longevity is definitely kind of taken over in terms of when I first started. I would just get big, get strong by any means possible, do whatever it takes. Probably not the best in terms of overall health. But now I'm a little bit more smarter now, and kind of my priority is just live as long as I can, be healthy, eat the right foods. So closest kind of diet I would say that I'm following is kind of a vertical-ish diet, which is Stan Efferding. It's Stan Efferding is a famous powerlifter. He kind of coined this meal plan, just basically just red meat, potatoes, rice. So what I eat mostly is kind of just either grass-fed beef, ribeyes, a lot of just red meat and rice and potatoes, and everything's organic, grass-fed. Want to look for grass-fed in terms of the quality.
Yeah, because some people might be thinking when you say a lot of red meat, they're thinking of maybe studies on red meat showing bad things. But like you, I eat grass-fed red meat. My blood work is great. Don't have any problems there. It's clean. It's a cow that ate grass. It's not pumped full of hormones or antibiotics. It's a cow from what your grandparents or great-grandparents would have had access to.
I'm exactly. I'm definitely keen on living a more ancestrally consistent lifestyle, kind of how our ancestors would eat, all organic, really as much as I can. The safest bet in terms of a grain-fed cow, it's they can pump them with a bunch of antibiotics, hormones, like you said, and grains. It's just not that. That's a dying animal if you think about it. Very short lifespan. It's very depleted, and even they'll spray herbicides and fertilizer and pesticides on grains that they eat, which is obviously not good. And so it's definitely important to get grass fed and grass finished too. Something could be grass fed, and it says grass fed, but that doesn't mean it's grass finished. So just grass fed means that they might have eaten grass at one point in their life, but then they'll get a bunch of grains and fatten them up towards the end.
Fatten them up, right?
So at the end of the day, it's just the healthier the animal, the more nutrients that's going to be consistent with the animal, and leads to a more healthier cut of meat. So lots of meat, and I think it's the most anabolic form of protein, in my opinion, most mineral dense. And I mix a lot. When I make my ground beef, I mix it with liver, also grass fed, and I'll get that from either Whole Foods or farmers market. And it's good to mix that in. Liver is probably it's known as nature's multivitamin. It's got everything in there.
Yeah.
So you definitely can't go wrong there. And it's definitely heavy in copper as opposed to just red or ribeye or the muscle meat is heavy in iron. So it's good. Copper balances out the iron. So it's good to eat them together. So those are two of my main protein sources. And I still eat chicken every now and then. It's just not as nutrient packed as something beef or liver, obviously. Yeah, liver is probably the most jam packed full of vitamins and minerals that that you
Agreed.
can get.
And you're a pretty lean person. I mean, you have six-pack abs, which most guys would love to have. I think some people might also think, oh, if I eat a lot of beef, I'll get fat, etc. But they don't realize the protein. Like your diet is very high in protein, which is necessary. It's satiating. I'm assuming you're not starving. You're not ravenous. You're not miserable, moody. You're not having brain fog because you don't eat enough carbs, etc., etc. You probably feel great as well as looking great.
Yeah, I definitely get enough carbs for sure. But it's also like really genetics. Like, contrary to your situation, I started out very skinny. Like, so I'm naturally like an ectomorph, like mesomorph type body physique. It was more harder for me to pack on weight for me naturally just being like a smaller kid or a smaller physique. So I definitely had to work that much harder, like, eat as much possible. Yeah, I didn't really I was always like naturally lean. So I always had like I was relatively lean, like no matter what, really. Which some people like might hate me for that, but
yes.
But yeah, it's just at the end of the day, it's just if you're naturally like a bigger guy, like you'd have to work a little bit harder and make sure you're more meticulous about how you're tracking your meals, like you're in a caloric deficit. Obviously, like calories in, calories out is a big component to that. Cardio might help with that too. So it's just basing it off your goals, really, for sure.
Gotcha. So, for example, not to switch from the nutrition, but briefly on cardio, for example, how much cardio in a week do you do? And do you just do like easy cardio? And it's very popular. People are doing this high intensity stuff. Do you feel there's a need for that, or do you just take it easy?
Cardio, I never really consistently did starting out, and even kind of now as much as I should, because I just hated it. Like kid really like who just wanted to gain as much weight, like, oh, why do I need to do cardio? I don't want to lose weight. Like, but I mean now more than ever, like I see like the benefit of it, like like ultimately like cardiovascular health is extremely important. Right. So I'll do a little bit now, like here and there, even like outside of the gym, like taking a minute to like do laps around my development, like just do a little bit of like slow walks, or like play tennis or like something fun, like just so it's not like boring. So that's the big thing. Like people like don't want to do cardio just because it's like, oh, I don't want to like sit on a bike for like 30 minutes or walk a Stairmaster for an hour or whatever. They're gonna get bored. But I mean, if you can go outside and do something fun, like that's probably the best way to do it, in my opinion. I'll also do it like after I eat a meal, just for like nutrient partitioning and like helping me digest my food. So like, especially for me, how my life is basically set up, I'll usually go to the gym pretty late. So by the time I get home, I'll have to cook and eat, and then it ends up being like 9-10 o'clock, and I'm like probably not ideal to go to bed on like a full stomach, really, in terms of a bunch of things. Obviously, like like the development of like growth hormone while you're sleeping definitely plays a role. So after a meal, usually at night, I'll do a couple laps around my development, just like help digest that food.
And you're just talking walking, right? Just an easy, normal, leisurely
walking. Yeah, it doesn't have to jog or anything like that. Just like a couple of laps, slow walk. That's fine.
That's a great tip, because I think everybody or a lot of people in the end, unless you're not crazy disciplined, they get tired of just being on that treadmill, the Stairmaster, the bicycle. It's, as you said, it's boring. Where you don't really need, because I mean, thinking of it overly simplistically, and you see the kind of people that go to the gyms we work out at, that they look fabulous and they don't do a ton of cardio, right? You rarely see a person who does a ton of cardio and lifts no weights who looks fabulous. But you can see the opposite.
Yeah, you need a little bit of both, depending on what your goal is. That is.
Yeah. And this is for men and women. It's not just for guys lifting weights to get big muscles. You see it with ladies who lift weights and do minimal cardio. They tend to look physically better than the ladies who do a ton of cardio and
exactly. It's definitely doing incorporate.
So before we get to the last section on supplements, which is I'm sure everybody loves to talk about, looking for that magic pill, is there anything you specifically want to talk about in this interview?
I think it's just important for everyone, especially like people who are just starting out, to not get discouraged and not get too overwhelmed. But like we're surrounded by just numerous amounts of information. It's kind of get intimidating. See what works for you. And I think it's just important to just find one thing and stick with it. It's really hard because you can find like all these different people on Instagram, like selling you this, selling you that, do my program, do this, do that. And he's like, forget it. Like, I'm not going to do anything. People are just like, just quit. It seems like too much, but it's just like, you could pick anything, just any kind of training style that interests you, stick with it for as long as you want. And you could say, hey, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe this training style isn't for me. I'm going to switch to something else. So no matter what it is, just stick to something, stay consistent, and you'll very more than likely see results no matter what you choose. And same thing goes for diet too. There's so many fad diets out there that people can get discouraged with just looking at so many. Like, how do I lose weight? How do I do that? Pick one thing, stay consistent with your training. It's very easy to overcomplicate it, but sticking to the basics is what I would say.
Gotcha. Yeah, words of wisdom from a very young person.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's pretty impressive, because I think you hit one of the root causes of people failing in the gym, or just failing in trying to transform, lose weight, build muscle, what have you. Mm-hmm. I know that you kind of described me in a sense, the old me anyway.
Yeah.
I think you described a lot of other people out there,
Yeah.
So onto the supplement section. I mean, you and I know there's no magic pill to just build on pack on a bunch of muscle or lose weight, but there are supplements that do supplement, whether they help a little bit here and there, or just for general health, because both of us are big on living healthy, so to speak.
Yeah.
So what are some things that you use? I guess you can think of it from the perspective of the most important ones first, I guess, and then maybe things that the general population doesn't know about.
Sure, yeah. So I guess in terms of like supplements relating to like fitness and like help you give like you an edge on like, your workouts, like the bread and butter, in my opinion, for like, muscle and like fitness is just like a good quality protein powder. I take one, it's called Levels. It's all grass fed, very minimal amount of ingredients.
I'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah, you can get it on Amazon.
Okay.
It has only a few ingredients as opposed to like some other protein powders, which are just like sucralose, emulsifiers, a bunch of other ingredients that like that are very unnecessary, that you don't want to be getting a protein powder. So like a good grass-fed protein is good, I think, in my opinion, especially if you're can't really tolerate dairy that well. You can experiment with like a good quality protein powder, a good quality creatine. There's a brand, I think it's called Crea Pure, or they call it the type of creatine, like Crea Pure, if I'm not mistaken, is a good brand. Creatine monohydrate, I think it has the most studies backing it up, and its efficacy. Personally, I don't take creatine, and I haven't for a couple years, but it definitely helped me. It definitely helps for sure. The only reason I don't take it, I'm DHT sensitive. So there's a lot of like people saying here and there that like, oh, creatine like causes hair loss, whatever. So, So if you're DHT sensitive, like my dad is bald, like I don't want to take any chances. Like,
yes.
So if you're prone to male pattern baldness, then maybe like it's up to you if you want to take that risk or not. It definitely helps overall energy and your strength for sure. So, but that's a great supplement, even for health too. I think amino acids are a great one, specifically essential amino acids, which gives you like a whole spectrum instead of like branch chain, which is like 3 of them. So I usually would take like amino acid powder like before the gym, just help like the energy boost.
Which brand do you use for that?
It's called Keon.
It's actually me too. From
Oh, you take that? Yeah, it's
yes.
It's the guy Ben Greenfield's
Greenfield.
Product. Yeah, he is a really good one. It's a little pricey, so you can decide if you want to take that or not. Any of your listeners,
it's the same as the Master Amina Pattern brand, because many years ago, I guess it's because I'm older. He used to work with, I forget the doctor that created that. And he was, that would be on his website. And then when he finally created his own label, he licensed that formula. So it's the exact same thing as Master Amina Pattern. And actually, it's now more affordable than Master Amina Pattern, I think. Or maybe I'm getting that wrong. Yeah, but at one point in time, the MAP was definitely still cheaper than the Kion, so I'd buy the MAP. But I think the Kion, for sure, it's always in stock. That's one thing.
Yeah, he has good products. So those would be like the three like fitness related supplements that I would take. I take a bunch of like health supplements, I guess. I used to take pretty much like as much as like I would see for me, like I would just listen to people that I follow, and like I kind of got stuck in a trap too. Like I would just like listen to like, oh, this is a great supplement. This is a great supplement. I want to do this. I want to do that. And I would just buy like 40 different like health supplement products just to try to be like, but I realized like this is like very counterproductive. Like, why am I doing this? I have a very nutrient dense diet. Like I don't need like 40 like mineral supplements to like help me with like my longevity package or whatever. But I kind of like cut it in half now. Basically just sticking to what personally like I want to improve or what I need to improve. So it's just a matter of like maybe like getting consistent blood work too, to see what like mineral deficiencies you might have, whatever like health related issues you might want to like, help through supplementation.
Just to interject one part there that you mentioned with the labs, I think that's important. A lot of people don't appreciate the importance of labs, and even when they do maybe their annual or they don't do it, and they get the basic lab work of, I don't know, like a 2-page document, not going into tons of detail. They don't know their potassium levels, or maybe they do, or the magnesium levels, or some may not even tell them vitamin D levels. You might suit them to find a place that can give more comprehensive labs, and it might be covered by insurance or might not be. Maybe they have to spend, I don't know, $100 and something or $200 to get something. But if you don't know, you may be doing everything right or 99%, and there's this one thing you don't realize. Oh, I'm deficient in this thing, whether it's your genetics or your diet or what have you, but you just don't know, and because you don't know, you can't address it.
Yeah, what you don't know doesn't get measured, or what doesn't get measured doesn't get fixed. So definitely important to get some blood work done, and a comprehensive one at that. I'm part of like a hormone clinic basically, which is like so like I basically just get consistent blood work and labs done for them. I'm not on any exogenous hormones, for like disclaimer.
You're too young for that.
But there are very knowledgeable people that help you like through like assess, like go through your labs, as opposed to like some random doctor that might not know really anything about lab work. And I found that like typically if I were to get like labs done with a doctor, I typically would know more than them. So like, why am I doing this? I mean, the only thing is just like insurance might cover it more. But, but yeah, definitely getting consistent labs is important. Make sure, like, I would try to fight them on getting like the right ones. Typically they want. Typically they might not want to like get like certain labs, like a full like thyroid panel, for instance, or like usually they'll just test for like T4 and TSH, which really isn't telling you anything, because T3 is kind of like the driver and actually moving like thyroid hormone and like actually like driving like your metabolic function. So or like reverse T3 is like your storage thyroid hormone. So like if your T4 is getting moved to reverse T3 and not actually to T3, then there's an issue there. And if you're not measuring that, you're not really seeing. Or like inflammation markers. I don't remember any doctor like testing for my inflammation. So that's obviously like a huge factor that most doctors don't test for. So if like
they don't.
If your lipid panel is like, if you're having high cholesterol, like high LDL, and you're, typically the doctors will see like a high LDL and like freak out, like, oh my God. But if your inflammation is low, your blood glucose is low, your low triglycerides, higher middle HDL, you honestly have nothing to worry about. In my opinion. I think there are some people that might fight me on that, but that's definitely, some doctors might not know any of these things. So it's important to go to people that actually like are reputable and know what they're talking about at the end of the day. So
I agree with that. I find it useful if you can see doctors that kind of the ones you've described as well, that are used to doing very comprehensive lab work. So they're used to looking at not 2 pages of data, but 10, 12 pages of data, or they're working with athletes, whether they're professional athletes, semi-pro, or what have you. People who are very active, who don't just want to be within range. They're trying to optimize things and so on and so forth.
In range doesn't necessarily mean optimal. Like people could be feeling terrible, and the doctor will be like, "Oh, you're in range. I don't know what you're talking about." So that's why, I kind of stay away from getting a blood panels from just a normal doctor. in terms of like health supplements, or like minerals. In terms of minerals, I would take I take minerals kind of basically that are very hard to get through the diet. So things like boron. I take magnesium.
Yep, me too.
Both very good, and chromium. So I take, like I said before, I go to the sauna like 2 or 3 days a week, and these are minerals that very like get depleted through your sweat. So if you're not replenishing these minerals after a sauna, then you're gonna come like lead or go into some issues because you're gonna become deficient. Boron, chromium, magnesium. I wouldn't supplement with iodine, even though you might lose that through sweat too, just because iodine is kind of tricky. If you over supplement with it, you might actually damage your thyroid. So I would be careful with that. It's better to get through the diet. So things like egg yolks, seaweed,
shrimp.
Yeah, shrimp. I'm trying to think what else. I don't supplement with iodine. So I named those three. I take vitamin D, not all the time. I'm usually good with sitting outside and getting enough vitamin D, but I do sometimes take vitamin D, and I match that, or I take it with K2 to avoid like calcification of it. So that's good. Usually days that I don't take or I don't eat liver, I'll take like a desiccated liver supplement. There's one good supplement through Ancestral Supplements. They have good like a beef organ complex, and some other ones.
I'll put that. Where do you get that?
Yeah, they have a website, just Ancestral Supplements. You can also get it on Amazon.
I'll put that in the show notes as well. Okay.
Yeah, that's a great one. I also take their thyroid complex. That's just desiccated like thyroid, like a glandular thyroid. Just because last time I got my blood panel, my thyroid is just a little sluggish, and since then I've tried to like up my intake on carbs, which can help the thyroid. What else am I taking? I'm taking spirulina, chlorella, which are both like very good for detoxification. There's like a blue-green algae. You can take that in like a powder form or a pill form. Maybe I'll take NAC, which is like a precursor to like glutathione. It helps your body create glutathione, which is like your body's natural antioxidant. I take NMN, is a precursor to NAD, which helps with like anti-aging. I mix a lot of things in my smoothie in the morning. Actually, I mix I don't know if you want to call it a supplement or not, but I mix like maca powder. It's supposed to be good for like balancing hormones. You told me about that. Yeah, I take that, or I mix it with my smoothie. I use a mushroom complex powder, which is basically like lion's mane, reishi, chaga, turkey tail, a whole bunch of like medicinal mushrooms that are supposed to be like very, very helpful for myriad of different functions in the body. So I can sit here all day and list all the benefits, but it's very good. I would suggest anyone listening to look into some additional mushrooms like lion's mane, chaga, reishi are two of my favorite. I usually get them like in individual like powders, pretty much all the big ones.
Okay. And I'll put all of these in the show notes. I guess I will type up all the things you said and double check with you which ones you take and put links.
I can send over some good brands I think are good. There are some fruits that you can get away with maybe not buying organic if you might not want to spend much money or much more money to buy organic, just like maybe like avocados or something that is like like sealed
thick skin.
Like has like a thick skin, so like is more resilient to like when they spray with like pesticides, herbicides. Like glyphosate is like a huge problem in the US, so you definitely want to avoid that. So there are foods that are like more prone to like getting or higher in glyphosate, like oats, for instance, which is another thing I put in my morning smoothie. So I definitely make sure that's organic as much as possible, honestly, just to avoid like the heavy metal toxicity and glyphosate exposure as much as I can.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, all very practical things. What is helping with you said fitness or your health in general.
Yeah.
So you definitely dropped a lot of knowledge here today. Super duper useful. I'll be rewatching this because there are a couple of things I didn't know about. For example, that protein shake, I'm going to look into. It was Levels, right? I believe the grass-fed one.
Levels. Personally, I like the vanilla. The vanilla flavor is probably my favorite.
Yeah, I find with protein shakes, I always tell people, when you're trying a flavor, try vanilla first. It seems like that's the safest flavor. Yes. Yeah. I've rarely found a chocolate that tastes chocolatey or good. It always looks pretty, but it never quite tastes that good. You know, so yeah, that's an issue there.
Yeah.
So thanks again for sharing this great information. It was educational for me as well.
Sure,
And thanks again for all the help you gave me in the gym. As I said, you're one of the people that I considered had me under adult supervision
Yeah.
while I deadlifted and squatted. So I didn't hurt myself. Yeah. Thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good one. Thanks.
All right, man. You too. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.